All right, today going to show you how to install a macro on Microsoft Word for Windows. There's a separate video that will actually show you how to do it on a Macintosh. So this video is geared towards the Windows versions of Microsoft Word. So the first thing we're going to do is open a Word document. So this is a blank document I had open. I'm running Word 2016 on Windows 10, but starting with Word 2007, when they brought the ribbon out, the UI layout is similar enough that these instructions will work for anything pretty much 2007 and beyond, 2007, 2010, 2013, and 2016. And honestly, actually, Macintosh 2016 is also fairly similar from a UI perspective. There's actually two different places you can go to install the macros. I'm going to show you first the place that it's available, like outside when you get Word pretty much out of the box, and I'll show you the other place when we're done. So when you first open Word, you've got all these menus, the ribbon, all of that. The place you're going to go to get the macros is you're going to go to View. So we're going to click on View, and you see all these things. You'll notice here to the far right, there's this button called Macros. You're going to click on Macros, and this window is going to come up. Now, if you've never installed a macro before, this window is going to be blank. You're not going to see all of these things. As you can see from my list, I use a lot of macros. My hope is to show you over the course of several videos some of these other macros, but we're starting by how do you install a macro is a good place to start. So I'm going to show you how to install them, and then we'll get into what some of these other macros are in future videos. So regardless of whether you are starting from a blank screen or whether you're copying one in or whether you're creating one from scratch, if you are putting a new macro into the system, you need to start by giving your macro a name. Now, the macro that we are installing, that we are copying into the system, is called version check. So I'm going to go ahead and type in version check. To be perfectly honest, if you're copying and pasting a macro into the system, you can honestly put whatever you want here because we're about to cut and paste over it. But just for correctness sake, I'm going to go ahead and type in version check here. And then you'll notice I'm going to hit create. This is now what we have here is Microsoft or Word has dropped me into what's called the Visual Basic Editor, the VBE. And this is the programming tool that is built into all of the various Office applications that allow me to build things like macros into Word and Excel and all of those things. And you'll see what it's done is it's created a shell, so to speak, for this little version check. Microsoft Word has said, oh, you want to make a macro called version check. I'm going to go ahead and give you the beginning and the end line. All of your macros have to start with the word sub, and they have to end with the line end sub. So it went ahead and gave me the first line and the last line that I need. And then these little lines that start with the apostrophes, those are comments. So those are lines that basically the computer ignores. Those are comments that are for human consumption. They're so that you can write things to remind yourself. And if I were to be creating this macro from scratch, so like when I was building the macro, I started from here and I started typing from here and started my if-then statements. Because we're installing this macro and we're not building it, from here what we're going to do is actually go over to the text file that this macro is stored in, and I'm going to select the whole thing, starting, including the beginning and ending. And the reason I go ahead and tell you to copy both the sub, the intro, the sub, and the name of the macro, and this end sub is because just in case the name of the macro is slightly different or something like that, go ahead and grab the whole thing. From here, you need to copy this. I prefer the keyboard more often than not, so I'm going to hit Control-C. You can right-click and hit copy or whatever. And then I'm going to get the text file out of my way. I'm going to come over here. Now, I'm going to highlight these, but I'm not selecting these. All I'm doing is highlighting them so I can then come in and hit Control Paste or Control V, which pastes directly on top, because I'm blowing away the stuff that Microsoft put in there to start with, and instead copying my own stuff on top. So you'll see that sub version check is there like it was before. The end sub is there. There's the text, that human readable text that I put in to remind myself what is the point of this particular macro. In this case, it's a macro to determine what version of Word is running and which OS it's running on. And so this particular version check it's kind of a test. Basically what it does, just so you kind of have an idea, it's basically saying if the application version is above 14 and the operating system is not Macintosh. So it's saying if, tell me if I'm running Word 2010 or above on Windows. Or if I'm not running 2010 or above on Windows, drop down to the next conditional statement. So if I'm not running that, am I running Word 2016 on Mac? Okay. If I'm not running that, then drop to the last thing, which tells me I'm either running Word 2007 or below on Word or on Windows. Oops, there's a mistake. Windows, or I'm running Word 2011 or below on Mac. The reason those three things are important is because of what we call the object model. Basically, the object model is what commands are used within the macros in order to tell Word what to do. And every once in a while, Word decides to, or Microsoft decides to tweak slightly, what the statement is going to be. Is it going to be a save as, or is it going to be save as to? And so those are the places kind of where they change the object model. And so in order to make the macros robust so that I can write a macro that works regardless of whether or not you're on, Word 2011 or Word 2016, I need to be able to test which version of Word you're on before I give a command, like the save command is a good example. And so this is just a quick version check this particular version check is not something that would normally run by itself. It's normally something that would run as part of another macro, but it's a great example to put into, to show you guys how to install a macro. So anyway, so you've now installed this macro and you now have a little bit more of a lesson on macros and programming than you probably wanted, but regardless, your macro is in place. It's now considered installed. From here, I'm going to go ahead and click this Save button to go ahead and save my normal template. And when I drop back here, essentially what has happened is I've saved it to what's essentially my normal template. So any blank document that I open up in the future is going to have that macro stored. And occasionally, depending on your system, you may get, when you close out Word, you may get one more question that says changes were made to the normal.docx file. Do you want to save these changes? Go ahead and say yes to that, because the changes that it's talking about are those macros, and you want to say yes, otherwise your macros don't get saved. So if you want to, however, if you want to run the macros, you come in here, you go the same direction. You say macros, you want to find the macro that you wanted to run. You say version check, and you click run. And here it ran, like I said, this macro, all it does is tell me what version I'm on. And in this case, it says I'm on Word 2010 or above on Windows, which is correct because I'm running 2016 on Windows. I click OK, and it's done its job. So that is how you install a macro on Word 2016. For bonus points, that's the end of the lesson. For bonus points, for those of you who want to stick around, the other place you can go to do macros, if you're interested in doing more macros, is this developer tab. Now, this developer tab is not one that's installed out of the box. In order to get the developer tab, you actually need to go to Customize Ribbon, which is under Word Options, which, like I said, you can get to it up here, or you can get to it by going File, Options, Customize Ribbon. And then over here, these are all those tabs. And then by default, the developer tab is not checked because most of us are not developers. But if you find this is something you like doing a lot of, you can click developer and you click it, and then all of a sudden this developer tab will show up for you from then on. And so from then on, you can have this macro. You can also access macros from here. You can get directly into the Visual Basic window from here, and you've got a bunch of other things you can do from here, including design forms and that sort of thing. So that's your bonus lesson for today if you want to. But like I said, if you're not interested in doing that, you can get to all of the stuff you need to for macros just through this View tab. So thanks for watching.